Hey YouTube land, I kind of started doing a quick, well, it hopefully will be a quick video. I'm doing a update to Crash Dummies that I haven't done in a while. So I'm just doing a showcase of all the modern era 2000, early 2000s, from I think it's 2003 to 2004 Crash Dummy line that Mattel released under their Hot Wheels banner. So these are released under the Hot Wheels Crash Dummies line, and there is various figures. Now there are single carded figures, which I will try and go through as best I can, and then there is the pack-in with some of the vehicles, which I'll try and showcase as well. Unfortunately, some of them require batteries, which I don't have the batteries for. They're the tiny small watch batteries, or the roundy, they're not the LR44s, they're the smaller ones, so I don't have those. But for the most part, most of them don't require batteries. There's only, I think, 2 in the slot that require them, or at least 1 in the slot that require them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and go through the standard dummy that came with most vehicles first, which is this guy. So this is now I'm not sure if this one and this one are the same. The red seems to be a lot darker on this, and the hands seem to be painted differently. It could be just where the region is. This one's fairly beat up as well. I got this in a second-hand lot, so I'm not sure if this one is actually a variant of this one. As you can see, I'm not sure if it's coming across on screen, but the red is actually darker on this more beat up looking one than it is on this one. Now I don't think it's a case of it yellowing, because I think the red would have discolored more if it was. But the gimmick with this one is it has a head pop action feature similar to the vintage Tyco Daryl figure. All you do is press in the button and the head springs up on a peg, or on a spring. The head can still rotate around. The most of these guys have pretty much the same articulation, so the arms can rotate. There's a swivel at the elbow. There's a hinge at the elbow. There is a swivel just after the elbow, but way before the wrist. And then there is hip articulation for forward and back. There is a knee joint. There's a mid-thigh swivel. And then there's nothing in the ankles, and then there's peg holes on the feet for these guys. So, like, for example, some of them came with accessories. I can't remember who this one came with. It's a little skateboard. The reason for the peg holes is they are designed so they can plug into these various vehicles. Some of the peg holes are different per figure, so the sizes can slightly vary across the line. So initially, when they released the line, most of the dummies had this kind of more realistic look, so to speak, kind of a more natural humanoid look. And then later on, somewhere down the line, they redesigned them to have this more chunky robotic look. So these are the kind of later wave ones. They all have kind of action features as well. Some of them don't. The ones that require batteries tend to be this one, or not this one in particular, but this style. Well, for the most part, I'm going to go through the ones that came with the cars and various vehicles. So, as far as I can remember, this guy came with the blue SUV. Now, there's not a lot of information about the 2000 plus line, the Hot Wheels era line. I've been trying to piece together stuff as far as I can tell. As far as I know, I got various versions of this guy. So I have one with a dark green, I have one with a lime green. All have the same head spring action. So as far as I know, I think the light green came with the red car, and I think this red came with the green car, and I'm possibly certain that this darker green, it's either the darker green or the blue, came with the SUV, because I have a blue version as well. So he's in kind of a dark navy blue. I'm not sure if there's a corresponding lighter blue. I haven't seen one that's in a lighter blue. I do have a yellow. I have one with yellow. Now, I do have one which is yellow, but has a completely different look to the grey. Instead of grey, it is kind of black, more of a dark gunmetal blackish grey with red accents on them. This one I know for certain came with the cannon, as they did a cannon set like the old Crash Dummy cannon. I never actually picked up either of the cannons, but I picked this guy up loose, separate off eBay, because I'm trying to get all the variants of this head pop version. So I got him loose. The other version I have is this all purple version, and I know for certain this one came with the gold version of the SUV. It's a harder to get version of the SUV. They simply only do 2 versions of the SUVs and 3 of the cars. The cars were released in well, blue black. It has a black bonnet, but it's mostly blue, red and green. And then the SUVs, as far as I can tell, were released in a blue and a gold color. I'm not 100% certain. I could have sworn there was a red one, but I don't think there is. But again, this guy has the same head spring gimmick as all the rest. So I'm going to move these guys out of the way for the time being. That's pretty much all the ones I have with the head pop-up feature. They were generally packed with most of the basic vehicles and the stuff like the ATVs, the SUV, or the ATVs, the go-karts, the golf cart, the lawnmower, the ski mobile. All those tend to come with that particular figure in various colors. And I don't know if there's one specific color per vehicle, or if they kind of mix to match. So what I'll move on to quickly next is the kind of main characters. Now, I am probably going to butcher which one is which. So for the main characters, there was a couple of named Crash Dummies. Now, unlike the old Crash Dummies, where they had a name tag with their name on them, these ones still retain the tag, but you don't actually have the name printed on them. So I think this guy was Crunch, and his gimmick is basically that his head crunches into his body. There was a later version of that gimmick, which is this guy. Now, I know this one came packed with the green buggy, and his head pops in like that. So his head just swings, pops in, and as far as I know, this one isn't the named version. He didn't actually have a name. And then for the next one, I'm going to go through them as I can. This is one of the later wave guys. So initially there was Crunch, Crash, Splice, and Gyro, I think were the original. And then they introduced 2 extras, which was Papa and Flex. This is Flex, and his gimmick is basically he splits in half and his entire bottom half flips up, or depending on which way he falls, probably depending which way his falls, his back will either fall backwards, or if he falls this way, his legs will flip over his head. Again, same articulation pretty much as all the rest of the dummies, same swivel in the arms, same joints. In fact, if I just bring in that one with the head crunching action with this, he still retains pretty much the same articulation as the others. You can still rotate the head, even though he has a head crunching action. The arm does rotate around. It's a different design, but he has pretty much the same articulation points. He even has the wrist swivel piece, and you have the legs that kick forward and have that single joint. He still has the peg holes as well. And then one of the other newer ones is this guy called Papa. His gimmick is very reminiscent of the old spare tire figure, with one exception. So when you press him, his bottom half splits off, and he has the eye pop out gimmick. So that's the old spare tire used to have that eye pop out gimmick. The only thing he didn't have was the splitting part. But again, you have all the same articulation, so you can get these guys seated on the various vehicles. One of the mainstay thing across the board on these guys, which is pretty cool, is that they all kind of retain the same articulation, even if they have the different action features, which is kind of cool. So one of the guys I have here, I'm pretty sure he came with a vehicle, or I'm not 100% sure which way this guy is packed. He's interesting enough in the sense that he has no action feature at all. He's just a complete basic dummy. His head does pop off, it's on a peg, but this button is a fake button. There's no actual gimmick. His arms don't spring off, his legs don't pop out. He just has the look of one of these newer dummies, but he has no gimmick associated with it. So there is this guy. I'm not sure if he comes with any specific vehicle, but there is a repaint of this guy, which is this one. He is a exact repaint of that mold. Comes in bright orange. He has a hazard warning sign on his chest and a big one on his back, and the reason for that is he comes with the dumper truck, the one that has the portaloos on it. He's the specific driver for that one. He, again, I do not believe he has a name, but he has all the same articulation as the rest of the line. One thing I will note is these are stickers on the shoulders, and on some of the dummies I have, they're missing those. They tend to always fall off on the figures. In fact, if I bring in, who is missing one at the moment? I'm pretty sure someone here is missing them. Of course, everyone I'm looking at has them on. Here we go. Here's a good example. So this guy here should have that hazard sign on both shoulders, but unfortunately he's missing it. He still has it on his chest, but that again is a sticker and prone to falling off. But overall, this guy has the exact same articulation, can kick forward, has the same knee joints, everything is exactly the same. He just has no gimmick whatsoever. So moving on to the one that I have with the audio thing, where you press the button and he would say different phrases. There is actually a speaker hidden on the back. I'm not sure if you can see that on camera, but there's actually, in this black section here, there's the speaker. This is the area you put in the batteries. I do not have the batteries for them. As far as I'm aware, there's 4 variations of this guy. So there is a kind of deluxe set line that comprised of 4 smaller vehicles. One being a bicycle, one being a skateboard, and I can't remember off the top of my head what the other 2 are. I think one's a scooter and there's something else. And they basically were kind of tricks. They did action tricks. So the gimmick with them is that when the dummy hit the ground, he'd hit his button and he'd end up saying a phrase. I think this is the one from the Serpent Slam, it's called. So the Serpent Slam was the one with the, I want to say the one with the skateboard, and it has like a ramp, and when he hits the ramp at a certain speed, I think it's a certain speed or a certain angle, the ramp will spring and he flies forward or falls backwards, or whichever way it is. I don't have a complete version of it. If I manage to pick up a complete version of one of the other ones, I will do a review for that. I will try and do, if I can get a boxed version, I will try and do a unboxing video for it. So onto one of the other figures that had a kind of duplicate of the old version and new version, which is this guy. This is Gyro. So his gimmick is basically he rotates around. So you have to wind him up and make sure his head is facing the right way. And when you press the button, or when he lands on his button, his head and legs swivel around quite fast and violently, and he gets into a smash. So you can do it once and it only does a small swivel, but if you wind up a couple of times, be careful not to overwind it, the faster his leg and head spins. And they did a newer version of it, which is on the newer style body, or the second wave style body. Again, the same thing. You just make sure that it's all set, and you'll hear it click, and then his head spins and does exactly what the other one does. Now, I'm not sure if this is a single carded version, because I believe there was a version that's single carded, and I also think this came with the blue version of the Crash 4x4. So I think these guys were kind of packed with some of those. There is that. Now for some of the other ones, this is either Crash, I think, or yeah, I believe this one's Crash. So I have him in 2 colors, so I'm not sure how he's released in the 2 different colors. I believe this is the version that came single carded. The red one is the single carded version, and I'm not sure the blue is a variation color, or if it's possible that he was packed with a vehicle. Again, there's not a lot of information on these guys, and a lot of these figures I picked up loose over the years, so I'm not too sure which ones came with what vehicles, or which ones came with, if these ones came with vehicles. I believe these ones were single carded, and there might have been a paint variation. So the gimmick with this one, again, when you press the buttons, his bottom legs pop off, his head pops off, and his arms are designed to pop off as well, if you can get it to work right. Again, exact same feature with this guy. If you can get him to do it on screen, it's a bit finicky to get his arms to pop off, but it does work. The idea behind it is when you press this in, these pegs kind of pop in, and when you push the legs together, the legs split in half. When you push those in, it should push these pegs out, so the arms and the head can peg onto those pegs. It's an interesting gimmick. It doesn't work all the time. It's not the best working gimmick, but it is a slight bit improvement over the old version, where the pegs were in the arms. In fact, if I can bring in an older version of the dummies that do this, bear with me a second. I just have one to the side here. The older versions of these, this is the racing version of Slick. So if I just pop these legs off, just for a display, the older versions of these were notorious for breaking. It has this peg system on there's a little kind of indent around the top of the peg. The top of the pegs were notorious for breaking off. If they were bashed too much or bashed too hard, those would break off. And the idea behind them is that they would click into a little spring here, and when they were in, they should sit in, but sometimes it would spring off themselves. As I said, they're notorious for breaking. So this newer system is a lot less, it looks like it's a lot less prone to breakage. If the longevity of these guys are anything to go by, because I've had these for quite a while, and I've been through a good few smashes and stuff, and they seem to be still ticking. So I much prefer using these guys for the crash videos that I did beforehand than the older ones, because I know the older ones have a tendency to break quite often. So I have this guy again. This is another version of this kind of gyro type thing where his legs and arms move, but there's a difference to him. So his legs move sideways and his arms pop off. Now there's a few of these guys from this wave. I think there was 4 in total. I think I only have 3 of the 4, which are these 3. So there's this guy that looks like he's out on a nature preserve. He's like wearing shorts and stuff. There's this guy that looks like he's going swimming, and when you press the buttons, he pops apart just like Crash does. This back plate is also supposed to come off, if I can get it to pop off. I'm not sure what the functionality of this back plate popping off is. I mean, even just having the body like that just works perfectly well. Again, he seems to have the older style peg system where the peg is on the arms, but they're a lot bigger, more sturdier looking pegs, so they look a bit more robust. What's interesting with this guy as well is his skin tone color is a lot more kind of skin tone, if you know what I mean, compared to the other dummies. The other dummies have this kind of pale, sickly kind of color. So this guy does something similar as well, where when you press his button, now it's kind of hard to do, is his bottom legs pop off, his head rotates around, and his arms swing up. So we get him back into position. Let's see if we can do it off camera and remove my hand quickly. No, it's not going to work, I would imagine. But yeah, his arms basically swing around, his head pops off, and his legs pop off as well. So there's that guy. Again, I don't know the names on these ones. They did reuse the Crash Splice, Gyro, and Crunch names a few times. So it's possible these ones are named that. I just don't know off the top of my head which ones are which. And then that brings us to this guy, who also does the same thing as the guy that looks like he's in a swimsuit. He also has the back plate that pops off as well. So you can see they did reuse the molds once or twice, just doing repaints of the actual torsos and stuff like that, which is not an uncommon thing to do in any figure line. And then that brings us to this last guy, which I believe is Splice. And the reason I believe he is Splice is because he gets spliced in half. And he's one of the coolest ones that they redesigned for the new ones. I have him in two colors, a red version and this orange version. And as you can see, he basically gets spliced in half. And the gimmick is you plug the head in, you just connect the body together until it clicks. Just get it in the right way. Oop. So get his head in, just click it together, and he kind of sits together. Now, the one interesting thing about Splice here, and I should point out the same thing about Papa, is they're the only two off the top of my head that I know of that doesn't have any neck rotation. All the rest of the dummies, even actually this guy doesn't even have it either. Thought he did, but there is a few dummies out there that don't have the neck rotation, and I'm not sure if it's due to the gimmick. It's definitely due to the gimmick on Papa here because of the eye pop thing. I'm not sure why this guy wouldn't have the head, the neck joint. It looks like he should do, but he doesn't. And because of the way the head pops into connection on Splice here, I believe that's why he doesn't have that neck gimmick. It would probably be far too hard to have added in a neck swivel on the way this thing connects together. So if I just pop them together. Now I think this hat is off him and the hard hat is off the guy that off Crash, but I could be wrong, could be the other way around. They all came with small accessories. Some of them came with stuff like traffic lights. Some of them came with, like, as I said, skateboards and various little doodads. Some of them came with like things they could hold in their hands. So unfortunately I don't have any of the accessories really that go match up with which one. So it's kind of like in the old line, the old Tyco line, where they come with accessories. Most of the figures, especially the Protec figures, came with like a melee weapon, with the exception of, I think, the Axel figure came with like a dynamite thing because he had a exploding gimmick. So there is that. Oh, and the Chip figure, was it Chip or Dent? Chip came with the toolbox, which is a really cool accessory. Some of these guys come with like lunch boxes and toolboxes, stuff that they can't really open and don't have any like components in them, but unfortunately I don't have any of them to hand at the moment. But there we go, with a kind of rundown collection of the modern era-ish Crash Dummies I have. I am trying to get other ones that I don't have and to build up the ones, you know, to get a good collection of the ones that I don't have. I am waiting on one or two to arrive in the post, so I'll try and do a quick review of those. And as I said, if I can get a couple of the sets that have, you know, they're carded, mint on card, I'll try and do openings, unboxings for them, and see if I can do a review for them live, or do a recording for them. So there you go, guys. I hope this video wasn't too long. It is, from what I can see, quite a lengthy video, so I'll wrap it up there. But I will try and get more video reviews done shortly and get stuff going. And as I said, I hope you found this video entertaining and enjoyable. And if you do, please feel free to hit the like, comment, subscribe, and if you can, share with friends. So there you go, guys. Hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching.